An Illinois law that prohibits people with nonviolent felony convictions from possessing a firearm is now under review by the state Supreme Court. The case involves James Benson, a Cook County man who was convicted for unlawful possession of a firearm by a felon. Benson had previously been convicted for unlawful use of a firearm without a FOID card. Benson's attorneys argue the state law violates a 2022 U.S. Supreme Court ruling that says gun control laws have to be consistent with the nation's historical tradition of regulating firearms. But lawyers for the state say the law is constitutional and that there is a long tradition in America of preventing convicted felons from owning a gun.